We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guest is Kelly Lin Hayes. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. How are you? I'm
so much better now that we're chatting today. There's a delay. It's happening. It's already happened. Friends, this is going to be a fun one. I'm very excited. A few quick notes. You'll hear Slimbo in the background. He's a dog. He lives here.
Dog.
He's the cutest. So get ready for a bunch of barking. And if it gets too bad, I will mute myself while you're chatting. But I just like to kind of, since this is live, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And also on that same note, the Wi-Fi has not always been our friend. But if I say it at the beginning, it usually like the Wi-Fi universe out there listens to me. So if I give this preemptive, if you at any moment notice that there's like a lag or it goes black, we'll be back. So just hang on tight. Cool. Now that those announcements are out of the way, let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. And let's hear your origin story. Where'd you grow up? Tell us how you fell in love with theater and all that jazz.
That's so long. Oh boy. I guess I'll just start at so I grew up, I always say the first thing that happened was I fell in love with Rent. Although I'm it's a little bit of a false kind of thing. I saw Wicked first. I believe I saw Wicked first, but I still really loved Wicked. And then I saw Rent. And my mom, I always famously say my mom loves the song Seasons of Love and then bought me the soundtrack without listening to the rest of it. And she did the same thing for Avenue Q. And so kind of from that, if you know me on Twitter, I'm very social justice, and I always like to say that Rent is where all of that is from. And I think for its faults and for its good things, a lot of back and forth. And so I did a little bit of theater in high school, and then stuff happened and I didn't like it. So instead I decided to I went into architecture, which is another thing that I had been really into. And then I decided in third year, so that's 5 years for architecture school. And they kind of bring you in with you can design anything. You can make anything you want to make. And then in third year, they're here are every building code that you need to know. And we're going to talk about air conditioning. And so I was just no, thank you. And around that time, Hamilton was coming out, which was 2016. And I was I forgot how much I love theater. Yes. And I forgot how much I love theater. And so after that, I kind of went back into the world of theater, and I started getting into fandom stuff again. And I always say that fandom is what brought me back, and Hamilton is what brought me back. Dear Evan Hansen brought me back. And then kind of from there, I was I want to be a set designer. I saw Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet, and I kind of fell in love with that design. And I was Mimi Lien, who designed Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet, is doing something that no one has been doing, and she's also an architect. And so when you see somebody who's had the same path as you, you are very encouraged by it. So that's kind of what I did. And then man, so much. And then everything happened. And so now we're kind of up to now where I was going to do my first show in June, and then COVID hit. My friend Merrill, who is directing our show, is very the punches, very much I want to do a show. And so therefore we're doing the show. And so it was is there any way you can digital this, make this digital and everything? And so I made it a digital show. And then from there, it was a love affair, and it's never ended. And I just love doing digital shows. So now we're up to now, and I've done 3 other digital shows. I entered one of them into La Mama's Designfest, and I got honorable mention for that, which was really cool. And in a very full circle moment, Mimi Lien was the person who was judging set designs. So Mimi, you know, so I got that, and that was really cool. Also, I like worked for Mimi at like as a PA. I'm sure those two aren't connected. Anyway, competitions are false, which is why I like never put too much stuff on that. But yeah, and so I'm just doing a lot of digital work floating around. I wrote a show last month, like a gay heist. I call it my gay heist play. And I cast a bunch of Twitter mutuals in it. Just a ride. And I've been making friends ever since. I always say I tripled my friend group in this quarantine because I've been doing digital theater and I've been doing all of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a long origin story, but like, you know, but it's really exciting. And you know, we're always in talk. I'm always in talk to do more. It's great having, you know, friends who enjoy what you do, which is weird, but like I was in an architecture school for 5 years. And they like low key made fun of me for liking musical theater. Like I remember like going around and like parading Hamilton like at every, and I was like, have you heard this? It's Hamilton. And they're like, Kelly, we're in architecture. And so, but like, you know, so, you know, I wasn't as used to like talking to people about things that I really enjoyed. And so this is really like, I feel like the career I was like meant to jump into. But yeah.
I love everything. I love everything about this origin story. It makes me very happy, and so much that we have in common, because fandom, I know you spoke about this on Token Theater Friends, which
I did.
big fan. But you know, I think that there's, and we can talk more about this either now or later or whatever, but I think sometimes like fandom can be used as a negative word, but also fandom is why so many people get into theater. And I think there are like levels of fandom, right? Like like, but like I've just said like 50 times, so my apologies. I love Hamilton. That's what got me back into theater, like you're saying you did. And if it weren't for Hamilton, I don't know if I'd be a theater reporter right now. So it's pretty incredible to see how Slimbo.
Oh, it's a doggo.
Hello. Slimbo said Hamilton. I love Hamilton.
Oh, yes.
He's so cute.
You love fans of Hamilton.
Yeah. So we should talk about how we met, because it's actually quite fabulous. Yeah. It's that combination of theater and fandom and whatnot, and why don't you say it from your point of view?
Well, like how we met?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I am a big fan of Anne Juliet right now. And I have a fan art account. And you found me because I was doing commissions there was this thing that a lot of artists were doing during Black Lives Matter, which is they're called donation commissions. So someone would donate money, and then they would send you the receipt, and then they would say, like, you would have a commission sheet basically, and they would say, this is how much I donated, here's the receipt, and then can you draw me this? And so it was a way for, like, you know, I don't have that much money, so I donated as much as I could. But then, like, as an artist with like a small-ish platform, I was able to like donate that money, or like, you know, the person was able to donate the money, and then it was almost like a little bit of like an incentive to donate, which I thought was like really cool. And like that's what, like, you know, that's the power that like artists have, and the power that people have, is to like do these things for the greater good. And it's like something that I'm very interested in, because I've been like noticing as I go on, like how entrenched what I do is involved in like politics, and whether or not it's because like I'm a queer person of color, whether or not that's why, or, you know, it's just like, it's like unavoidable for us, I feel. And I thought that, you know, it was I think it's a good cause, but, yeah, I mean, it speaks to how like fandoms can like really like come together for a cause, which is what I think people like forget. Like I was in the Glee fandom, for a really long time. And I remember one of my best memories of the Glee fandom was we did a 24-hour live. It was just the Klain fandom, which is Kurt and Blaine, and they had little fandom, and there were like, much like what happens with big fandoms, which you don't really see in Broadway because Broadway is so short. So like what you see in big fandoms is that you'll start to have like a hierarchy of people. And so there were these 4 like really popular Tumblr bloggers, and it's really funny because I'm about to say their names, and their names are Murphy, Brad, Colfer, and Claire's, which is all names of the writers, which sounds weird, but that's what they called themselves because we're on the internet and we're anonymous, which is also why I will call people by their usernames, because that's where I was back in the day. Anyway, they held a 24-hour live stream and they raised money for a charity in Darren Chris's name. And so like when they did that, like they got all of this, like they didn't get like publicity, but like they got to talk, they emailed his manager and was like, hey, we raised this money. And then they got to go backstage at a concert and like see Darren Criss, and they like took a picture with this like celebratory check. And it was like a decent amount of money, I believe. And like, so that was like, fandoms can do things for good. You see, you know, there's like a YouTuber who did something for mermaids, the Mermaids Fund over for trans youth over in, I believe it's like an English UK kind of charity, but like, and it was like H Bomber guy, and he raised like all of this money for charity for them. And that was like it wasn't based off of a fandom, but it's based off of somebody, he's a personality and he can do that. And that's like so important. It's just always giving back. But yeah, long-winded answer.
It's perfect. And I loved all the other details. But yeah, I remember seeing you because of our mutual love of Aunt Juliet and loving your artwork. And then, you know, that time period where a lot of people were doing that. I thought that is so cool. And, you know, I loved your artwork. So I thought this is a win-win. I'll donate. And then you did the coolest thing, which, you know, is on the cover of this YouTube channel, but also I'll share it again on my like Insta story later, that I had sent you this photo of me covering the Tony Awards, and then you like gave me a Tony Award. You like put it in my hand, and I was like, oh, this is so fun. So maybe I won't win one in real life. Who knows? But now I have a photo with one, a caricature of me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. That was like so fun to draw. Your dress was like beautiful. I was like, this is exciting. As somebody who like loves drawing, like, I mean, Aunt Juliet, who loves drawing costumes. So like the details work was just so fun to draw and stuff. And it's like, also my style has changed so much. So I like look at it, I'm like, oh no, this is better. But yeah.
I love that dress. It was kind of Hadestown inspired with the like the gold and.
You have dresses like that? I have dresses like that. I have like a closet that's like, I say it's Dear Evan Hansen themed. I have another one that's Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet themed. I say, yeah.
I love it. When I saw Aunt Juliet, I wore like a pink dress, and then I wore a purple dress. Yeah, so let's get into the Aunt Juliet of it all, because it is a real obsession. It is my true love of musicals. I was just listening to it before we went.
I'll yell about it until I die, but go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you'll get to see it, and that everyone gets to see it. It's just one of those shows that it brings the, you know, there's like jukebox musicals and there's like reminiscent musicals and whatnot, but they write in so many like inside jokes of being a fan of that type of music within the songs, or like they name people based off of that, or like, you know, it feels like more than a jukebox musical in that it's not any one person's story. Hey Limbo, but it's so good. It's so high energy. And that's like, you know, I always say that Aunt Juliet was like written for me, because when people ask, what's your favorite music? I say Broadway in the 90s. And so now there's a Broadway 90s musical, and it's perfect.
Yeah. I think what resonated with me is like a lot of like the diversity, and like one of the things that I like constantly scream about is the fact that, like, you know, I really liked the Prom. Before I got into Aunt Juliet, I was into the Prom, and I really was attached to Alyssa and Emma. And the same goes for Anne Juliet. I'm very attached to the queer characters. I'm very attached to May and Francois, who are like one of the first who I know and I looked at this as far as like the Tony Award nominated go, like one of the first queer BIPOC couples to grace like a major West End Broadway stage since like Celie and Shug from The Color Purple. And before that, you know, because The Color Purple, what was that year? Was it 2009, 2016?
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, the revival and the original,
right.
and then before that was Rent. Like they don't exist, and not only that, but they, you know, spoiler alert, you saw this coming. They get together. You see this by like the third scene. They have that whole thing, and then it's great, and then they, you know, and so and they get together in the end, and it's implied they get married. Like, when do you see that? Like, you don't. Like, I think that a lot of like the things that we argue for nowadays, which is like representation, is fantastic, and like I'll scream about it the most. But I think that like you always have to be cognizant of what is actually happening on Broadway, because some people choose to not make that change. Like, well, some people choose, they're saying like, we want to come from the outside, like we want to do other theater things, and I'm like, that's great. You should do both. Because like that's what I'm about. Like, people like kept telling me that like Broadway was selling out, and I was like, I'm gonna be a sellout because I love Broadway. So like, and to me, like that's so important. Like, you know, someone on a trip from Middle America, Kansas is gonna see, you know, if it comes to Broadway, like we'll come see Anne Juliet thinking it's a jukebox musical about whatever, but they're gonna see like, you know, two characters who are very in love with each other, who are not straight, and also not, you know, and also not white. And I think that that's fantastic. I think Miriam Teak Lee as Juliet is fantastic. I think that there is, I want her to come over. I hope she comes over. I hope the whole cast comes over, but like, I really hope she comes over because she's a star. And because when have we ever had that kind of representation on Broadway, where it's like, I was just in a conversation with like my other friends, and we were like talking about it, and I'm like, when do you see these things? You don't see them. And it's like, you know, I love I think Jagged Little Pill is really interesting. I love Frankie because hilariously, I like two characters named Frankie who are people of color and queer, because Francois's nickname is Frankie. But like Frankie, played by Celia, is a great character. I wish she was the main character, because she has such an interesting story, but she's not the main character. It's her, like, it's like, you know, there's a lot about her family in there, and her white mom and her white brother. And I would appreciate it more if they talked more about her being a transracial adoptee in a family like that. But they only bring it up like a few times. And it's just like, that is so much her story. And so, you know, I have like, you know, rants forever, but that's how I kind of like feel about Anne Juliet, and that's why I love it so much, and I'm excited for it to come over if it does. And I hope they keep the casting too. I would like it on record. I hope they keep the casting for it. Like, it should be, May is not just non-binary. May is also a person of color, and that's important to keep. And I think that it's same with Francois. I mean, don't even get me started on Tim Mahendran. The fact that like because like Bonnie is the other example that I use from Head Over Heels, her and Taylor, as is it Mopsa and, I'm so sorry, Bonnie, I don't know what the other character is called. Pamela. Pamela and Mopsa. Oh my god.
I wish I did.
It's Pamela and Mopsa. They play Pamela and Mopsa, and Bonnie is like a plus size woman, and is like playing a character that has like nothing to do with it, but because, and this is something that gets said a lot, but because they are, it's still a statement. Like, it's still, because nothing exists in a vacuum. You know, we come to these shows and we, you know, pretend that we don't bring our preconceived notions with us, but we do. Like, you know, so seeing someone who's larger have a relationship with another girl and they're queer, that's great. As it's not brought up, because it should be normalized in a way. But, and it's the same with Anne Juliet. Like, there's a lot of like known body issues in the queer space, especially like with men So like having Francois be not only desirable to both lead characters, but also be larger and also he's half Sri Lankan and also be South Asian. There's a lot of South Asian is a very big umbrella term, but like that is so important. And Aaron, who plays May, is half Punjabi and half Black. That's incredible. Like, I want that for Broadway. I want that for us. Like, so I just, I have many thoughts.
I love all of your thoughts, and I share so many of them. I should say that the like spoiler alert for like everything right now. So if anyone's watching this, I'm sorry if anything spoiled from before, but just like from now on, like Anne Juliet, Rent, the Prom, like
anything we
Hamilton, anything that we talk about. I am like expressively, this is 20 minutes and 58 seconds in. There will be spoilers. And we spoke about this earlier because I think sometimes you want to give a space, like, especially if it's on Twitter and you're like, no spoilers, because it's hard to sometimes navigate that. But I also want a space where people can just like openly talk about different songs or what they thought of a film adaptation or whatever, and have that opportunity to have some spoilers that we can just like have this open conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially so. Okay, let's stay on Anne Juliet for a few more minutes, and then we'll move on to maybe the Prom.
I just want to talk about. I can just talk about Anne Juliet.
Okay, perfect. So I don't remember what I said before. Just sometimes slim barking affects a little bit of the memory, but I love it so much. So when my boyfriend and I went to London and had tickets to see Anne Juliet they do a Thursday Tudoshay. So Thursday matinee, and then we were seeing 6 at night. So it was like, this is our fun, lady singing night. And we got out of the Anne Juliet matinee, and I said, I don't know what you're doing on Friday, but I'm coming back here and seeing this again. Because there was no way I was leaving London without seeing it again. I was so blown away by the diversity in every aspect. And when Erin sings, I'm not a girl, I lose it, because it's like that song just takes on such a new meaning when you sing it. And to have this type of conversation happening on the West End with, like you're saying, songs that like we know, and that maybe people who wouldn't intentionally go for a queer or representation show go just to see a show, and then they're like, oh, I didn't really think of it that way. And I think that's actually really beautiful. I think it's beautiful in both ways. That if you go for a show because you're like, hey, this has representation and queer and diverse casting and Black voices and Asian, that's great. But also the fact that I went there because I love the 90s. We knew that Bill Sherman was working on it, and we had just seen him in Freestyle Love Supreme on Broadway. And he's like, oh, you're going to London? You should see the show I'm working on. And we're like, okay. It was like one of the many reasons why we love a stage door experience is because, when you have that opportunity. And then when we met Miriam and we met Miriam Teak and we met Aaron outside at the stage door, and I said, we just saw Bill Sherman on Broadway and he recommended it, and he was like, oh, we love Bill. And just like this small little connection that you could have this and be able to tell them how much it meant to me and meant to us, and that we saw them 2 days in a row at the stage door. Clearly, I think it's just a special thing. And then to wrap that all up is that then John, my boyfriend, for Hanukkah, got me a cameo of Miriam Teak Lee talking about it. And it was just like, I'm just sitting on the couch, like crying, like, this is so thoughtful and perfect. And, you're supporting her right now, which I appreciate. And then I get like a personal message, like, I love Cameo. So now you can react.
Did you see Tim?
Yeah, we saw, what was actually cool is we saw most of the original cast with the Romeo characters were different, the two knights, and then the nanny was the understudy who was just phenomenal.
Jocasta.
Obsessed.
Jocasta as the nurse, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I need to get better at learning all their names.
So good. Oh, I mean, well, like I'm like you can't compare yourself to, like, I am literally obsessed. Like I know all of their names, I know all their costumes. It's fine.
Their costumes are incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean Paloma Young, like congratulations on your everything. She also did the costumes for Catastrophe and the Great Comet. If you don't know who Paloma Young is, get to know Paloma Young. Her costumes are, I remember watching an interview with her, and she was like, one of the greatest things about those costumes is that she talked to all of them about what they wanted, and she like stalked their Instagrams, relatable, to like see what their style was like. And that's how you do it. Like, you know, and they're colorful and they're beautiful and they have themes. Like there's like a club scene and they're all the costumes. Like what's great is that they have every costume has like a through line. So like it's very easy with some of them. Like for example, Carrie has a skirt on like all the time. Dylan has a crop top on all the time. And so like, but like depending on what scene they are, they're themed. So like in the club scene, they're themed white, gold, whatever, silver. And then in the funeral scene, they're themed to be a darker blue or a grayish blue, or like, you know, so they're all themed in different ways. Which I mean, I really like, and it adds to like the whole, like they're the players, like, you know, because it's like a weird fourth wall thing all the time. That show is just fourth wall breaks. But I enjoy the costumes. Obviously, I draw them all the time. But yeah, it's great to hear that like you met like Aaron and everybody. I like the cast is like so incredibly supportive on Instagram, and I feel really bad because I haven't drawn any of them yet because I literally only draw Aaron and Tim, who play May and Francois. And so like, I mean, Aaron has been incredibly sweet. Aaron is hilariously, I always tell Aaron, I'm like, you can't be this nice to other people, because like Aaron like fully like reaches out all the time and is like that's so cool, and like he like looks at my like Instagram stories, and then like we started talking. He went to my reading for my show. He like saw it and he like made comments and he called and like he talks to me about my sets and everything, and he is a genuinely incredible human being. And like also, I mean, he just is like, he seems like one of those people who just like is loving of everybody. But also in a way that's not, and this isn't a negative thing, but it's just like very open to people. And like, and now I'm going to contrast him to Tim, and it's going to make Tim seem like an asshole, but Tim is great too. Tim is just private. And I fully understand that. Some people are private and some people are public, and that is fine. So I love you, Tim. I'm sorry that I am maybe contrasting you in a bad way, but I think that Tim is just nice. Tim is like always like, we love your art, and I think like, and he's like, and he's a great guy, and I'm not at all. I'm just comparing and contrasting the way that they have public personas, which I think is really interesting, because I'm also very in love with like Joe Iconis, which is like why like you having Joe Iconis and like Lauren Marcus and like is so cool. Nick Blameyer should have been in Tick Tick Boom, the movie. Cannot convince me otherwise. I'll sue. And Jennifer Tepper is one of the loveliest human beings. Jennifer Tepper, before Be More Chill was like produced, Jennifer Tepper agreed to be my advisor for my set design thesis in architecture school. I like messaged her and I was like, please be my advisor. And she was like, sure. And she was just so sweet and so kind. And I like remember I like met with her at 54. I brought her a little gift. We had access to 3D printers. So I 3D printed a block of New York that had 54 included. And then I took a little like drop of nail polish and I like put it where 54's door was. And so I gave her that. And she was like so nice. And she was like, anything you need, she's like, just let me know. And she's just a wonderful human being. And so when Be More Chill happened, and I went to go see the Jonathan Larson project, and everything. A great human being, but like that's like what, like, you know, there are some people who are more public than other people, and it happens that, like, bringing it back to fandom, that with Be More Chill, it just so happened that the fan, like, they were much more much more into reciprocating that, which I thought was really cool. But before we talk about before we get on Be More Chill, like, you know, it's just very interesting to me, like the public personas and everything, because that's something that I've had to be like talk to myself about, which is the public personas of like how I choose to present myself online, and, you know, what I can and cannot, what I feel I can and cannot sometimes like say, like, you know, although I'm pretty much just one-to-one Twitter, so, you know.
Yeah. Wow, so many great points. It's true though, like with your social media like persona, I think as I've gone through the years, like one of the best parts of creating B-Way Show rather than being like an on-air reporter for someone else was that like who I want to be and who I want to present myself is in my hands now. And so like the same person that you're going to see on Instagram or Twitter or whatnot, I hope is the same person that you're going to meet at the stage door, because like I try to say I'm positive only. I'm a theater fan. I'm like the fans reporter, but also when I say positive only, if there's like a social justice aspect, like that's not like a positive negative. That's like a right or wrong. Like I like to just clarify that they're like, oh, but you're very passionate about the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, well, yes, because that we should all be, and trans right, not you know, shouldn't be political. It should just be a fact of life. Hey, trans lives matter. Black trans lives matter.
Yeah. Oh, you had Sis on, and that was cool too. I saw Sis in it. I love Sis. Hi, Sis.
Hey, Sis.
Yeah. She's cool. Yeah.
Love. Big fan. Yeah. And just co-sign all that, because even with the Be More Chill of it all, like I got into it because of how wonderful Joe and Lauren and George and Jason and Jen, like all of them.
Jason's so nice and sweet. I love Jason.
Just like everyone that I met there just made me feel comfortable as a fan and as a reporter, which like doesn't always happen. And once again, like cool, everyone has their own journey. But when you do meet people who appreciate you for every aspect of you and like don't want to, you know, like I'm trying to think of the right words, but like I'm not a gotcha journalist. So I'm not gonna like, we can be chatting and I'm not gonna be like, oh, ha ha ha, you said this. Like that's just not my style. So I hope everyone feels comfortable that if we're just chatting at a coffee shop or chatting at a, you know, the opening night after party, that like we have just a real conversation. And that's really cool and something I like hold very, very personally. So all that being said, it's really cool when you love someone's work and then you get to meet them and you're like, they're just really cool people, and you want to support everything that they do.
Yeah. I think that's like that's the exchange that you get in being true with somebody. Like, and I'm also going to say it now, Will Roland was also one of the big reasons that like I got back into theater.
Yay!
I was obsessed with Will Roland in the Dear Evan Hansen fandom.
Yes,
I will.
Big fan.
Yeah, so like to me, like, and then of course, like when he went into Be More Chill, I was like beside myself.
Yes.
and so, but like I think that like I think that it's so much about like because I used to be like, be careful like what you put on social media, and like, you know, don't be too out. And I remember like what was I doing for one of my accounts? I believe it was like, oh, it was a Twitter. My Twitter used to actually be pretty like not social justice. And then at like point I was like, who cares? Like if you like, I don't want to work with anybody who doesn't like share the basic levels of humanity that I require in a human being. Like, you know, like, and I think that like, I mean, where that divide happens is like when you start talking to the higher ups and you realize like, yeah, like a lot of these people are like very rich and white and conservative. And it's kind of like, that's where you have to start navigating it. And it's like living in both worlds is kind of, you know, is a whole thing. But like also if you're like a person of color, and especially, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the community, but like especially if you are like Black, or if you're like, you know, it's almost like it's like a game that you're playing at a huge disadvantage at already. Like as somebody who is Asian, I know that I am in proximity to a lot of white spaces because they're much more comfortable seeing an East Asian person, even than they're seeing a South Asian person. So like I have the proximity that other people don't have. So I'm going to be incredibly loud about it, but also I want to remain, when I'm in those spaces, I want to remain more respectful, but it's so that I can open doors for other people. So, I mean, like if you're a jerk human being, I'm going to call you on being a jerk human being, but if people need to play the game to get up there just so I can kick them back out, like that's what I'll do. And I think that, like, you know, that's a hard conversation to have, because some people would say that you shouldn't play the game, and it's a very hard conversation. It's very much, and I hilariously always bring this back to Anne Juliet, because it's such a good conversation. Like you would not be able to introduce characters like Francois and May if you didn't put a sugar coated topping on it. Like, and so that's what we talk about, like when we talk about like levels of like performance and commercialism on shows. But like the reality is that producers who are giving the money don't think that you can exist like that and without putting all of that on. And things that like Jeremy O. Harris is changing with like Slave Play, and Lin is changing with Hamilton, is that like it's time. And I think that like a lot of people are like, well, what are we going to do about Hamilton? Because like that was diverse, and aren't we all fixed? But I'm pretty sure like Broadway had one of the record low years of diversity the next year after Hamilton. Like it's continuous work. It's not just one thing and we're done. It's keep going. You know, so after Anne Juliet comes over, I hope we have more stories that come on that are like highlighting these other important like issues, because it doesn't stop. The work never stops. So, you know, it's interesting. I always love illustrating my poets with Anne Juliet. It's always so fun. Yeah.
Yes.
But
So good.
I remember watching an interview. I'm going to pick on Tim again.
Great.
Swear I love you, Tim. I love you so much. I hope he watches it. I also hope he doesn't watch this. I was watching like a really interesting interview with Tim that I literally stayed up hours to watch. Tim, don't watch this. And we were talking about, or he was talking about how interesting he thought it was that like Anne Juliet doesn't talk about Juliet being Black, and how interesting that was, because normally like the narratives with people of color is that they are in that area, and that's what the story is about. Like even in the Heights, as casual as it is still about, you know, people who are specifically, it's like Puerto Rican. So my counterpoint to that is a tweet I saw last night that I retweeted, which was somebody who said, no matter what the context, you putting someone who is, specifically the tweet said Black, putting someone who's Black in a show will always make that character Black. And that is what that means, because like I said before, it does not exist in a vacuum. So her being like, yes, it's great that she's in this show where it doesn't explicitly call out her race or have any trauma to do with her race, but it still highlights her as an artist, and she still is like a shining beacon of what I assume a lot of people look up to. And that is very important. So I wouldn't, you know, it's weird because it's like, it's a hard conversation, because it's like nobody ever argued in the first place that Juliet shouldn't be Black, but I definitely feel like those conversations have happened in rooms where people are like, we can't cast that actress because she's Asian, and Juliet isn't Asian, or Juliet isn't Black. But like, those are conversations, like that's what Miriam had to overcome.
Right.
that's her story of being, Black on the West End. That's her story. And so I think that like I would say to like that point, I would say like yes, and
Right.
it is important that she is Black, but it's also important that that like there isn't like there isn't like some kind of like stereotype attached to it, or even if there was like a stereotype attached, that she's a fleshed out character. It's always really interesting because May always gets posed as the gay best friend, and it's like, or as like the Black gay best friend, which is also a trope. I would like always think, and I'm like, would May go from the gay best friend trope to the Black gay best friend trope if Juliet was white? And so that's like always a thing that's like, it's always like changing. I remember with my show, I made sure I was like, this cast is all queer BIPOC kids. That's it. No questions. But you still have to like think about like, there are still things to think about, even when you're being like very blanket statement. So, I mean, it's all like a fun thing that you can navigate, but these conversations that we're having are only opened because of Anne Juliet and what they're doing. And so like, that's like my whole point is like, even if you don't like it or you think it's performative or whatever, the conversations are being had because of this musical man, or because of that. These conversations are not happening like around Music Man. Norm Lewis should have been in the Music Man.
Oh my goodness, imagine.
He did it with Jesse Mueller. There was like a thing. Mistakes.
Yeah, but just having these conversations, I think, really does start to move something around, and the ability. I mean, it's just there's so many points to make about that, but for Miriam Teague to go from Hamilton on the West End to starring in Anne Juliet in this very like in a role that is so powerful, and just when you see her up there singing, "You're gonna hear me roar, you're gonna hear me roar," like you can't help but just be like, yes, all of this. And by putting someone who looks like her as that like ideal, like, oh, this is such a perfect thing, that really opens up for people who look like her to say, oh, I can star in a musical. And that's yet another reason why representation matters on so many levels. And
I yell about that, the whole thing with Lien is because I was able to like point my finger and say, she did that, and that means I can do it. And that's like literally my basis for everything. Like once somebody else does it, it means I can do it too. So like, and I say that with Tim all the time. I'm like, look at what Tim is doing as somebody who's South Asian and like larger. I can do that too. That's why he's so important to me, and I do pick on him. But like, that's like why, I say love, but like, I look up to him so much, even though he's definitely younger than me. But like, I look up to him so much, and I think that it's so important that like, I would love for him to like be a part of these conversations. I think, it's like he's a good guy. I just pick on him a lot, but.
It also makes me think that I think some people will pick on something, not like this, but they'll hear me say something about Hamilton and they're like, but I thought you loved Hamilton. And I'm like, I do. It's one of my favorite musicals. But being a fan means that you should be able to call out the flaws. And being a fan, like, they not only should exist together, but they have to, because if you love something blindly, then that's not great. But like, I listen to Hamilton and Hadestown and Anne Juliet and Be More Chill, like, but you can still be like, but I wish this were different, or like, I love this, but why didn't they talk about that? And that's like, okay. And it's encouraged, and something that like having these open dialogues with your friends or people, in general, on the internet, in these fandoms, like, it's even better because now you're opening up your eyes to something that maybe you didn't see, or a friend or something else. And like, it just makes it should make your fandom stronger because you're realizing like these are humans. These are like everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has these days. I don't know why that's something that I just, sometimes you just got to throw in a fun little reference right there. But all that being said, first of all, if you're watching here and you have any questions or thoughts, please, we're looking at the comments. Hello, Eva, saying, oh, loves that pic that you did of me with the Tony. Thank you for saying that. Eva is one of my Showtreons, big fan. Those are the UA Show Patreons, and y'all are the best. So, all that being said, we have been chatting for 45 minutes, which is just like incredible. And I want to make sure we get to even more.
The fact that you said an hour was like, I was like, okay.
We might go a little over.
I have the longest podcast on Token Theater Friends, and that is very funny to me. Our podcast is 2 hours.
It was very impressive.
I was like, you had to get the guests in, but like,
Well, if you're good with it, I'm good with going a little over.
I don't care, yeah.
So something that you spoke about on that podcast episode was the prom, and y'all didn't want to have any spoilers, which this is why we're saying there will be spoilers, because I do think it's important to talk about certain things, and I want to know your opinion. For anyone who's been like chatting with me about it, they know that I very much wish that it were the original Broadway cast filmed in the movie. If that wasn't going to happen, I'm like pretty happy with who they have. There are some people who I would have cast differently. And there's a lot there, but I'm just like, I'm so pro the Broadway actors being the ones who are recorded, even if it's years later, even if it's whatever, and they should be compensated. I saw Ashley Lee did a great article about this, that they're the ones that shaped who these characters are.
Big time. Especially the 4 adult characters.
Yeah.
Caitlin Kinnunen.
Yeah.
As Emma.
What's your thoughts?
I mean, nothing. I mean, I basically did get to say everything I wanted to say on Token Theater Friends, but my basic feeling is this. Disregarding James Corden, the way that I feel about the cast is in, like, it is commercial. And I feel there are some things that the overall message matters more to me. That's not to say anything against the Broadway cast, because everything that you said is correct. They should be compensated. They at least should be compensated. They at least should be credited. I think they should have had cameos. The only person who was in the movie was Batsy, and I believe Jack Seeple. I don't know if he was either in it, or he did choreo or maybe something. I don't know where
he did assistant choreography, and he had like a little cameo. Continue.
Yeah, and also I love Batsy. Hi, Batsy. But I thought that, like, I liked the movie because it is important. And I think that there needs to be a conversation in general about liking things because of that. Because I've definitely had people be like, why do you like this? You just like it because there are people. I remember somebody once made a comment about Black Panther to me. And I was like, I like Black Panther. And they're like, you just like him because it's got Black people. And I'm like, okay, and what's wrong with that? They've never been represented. And I like that they're represented. And that's, to me, important enough. And if it's not important enough to you, then maybe you're probably racist. And he definitely meant it in a racist way. So I'm not wrong. But like, to me, the prom is very important because somebody, like I said before, in like middle America is going to get to see, Emma and Alyssa have a relationship, and they're going to see them kiss. And even though they gave the adults more than they did in the musical, to me, that is important. The last scene where all of the teens come in for the prom, for the queer prom, I'm not saying that I burst into tears and then couldn't stop crying for 10 minutes, but that might have been what transpired. Like, what do you do when you see, I've never seen that before on TV, like, what an incredible moment that is so important. I was like, the whole movie, whatever I went through to watch that movie was worth it for that. The last 20 minutes worth it. And like we can talk forever about like, you know, how the girl who played Ellen, I believe her name, Ellen Poe, was thinner. And
Right.
it was thinner and then Caitlin Kinnunen, and how, you know, the way that it was casted was like, why couldn't any of the main adults be a person of color? Why was the only person of color who they changed the homophobic mom? Let's talk about that. And one of the bullies. Why? And so it's just like, it's a very, I could talk circles around that all day, all the time. But to me, the big thing that comes out of it is the fact that there was that representation for people. So, I mean, I'm not giving the movie a thumbs up, but I'm saying it's important that people watch it anyway. I mean, like, I still kind of don't know what my opinions are on the movie. I liked it because I liked the prom and I liked the music, but I didn't like it more than the musical. Sorry, Chris Sieber forever. And you know, Brooks forever, you know, I care deeply about that cast. I also did fan art for them. So like, you know, I deeply cared about that cast. And I also deeply cared, like I was really, just like I'm into the ensemble of Anne Juliet, I was really into the ensemble of the prom. So like Juman and Juice are like my favorite, and they like, you know, they were like the male couple in the end. And I just like, I mean, I am so endeared to the ensemble, and I always like make sure I want to like pay attention to them, just as somebody who does fan art, because they often get like looked over, and I just think that it's so important to include people. But you know, those are kind of like my thoughts on the prom. I don't know, because we could talk about like what I didn't like for hours. But overall, the message to me is that it is an important, you know, now, like, you know, and you can compare it to like the Music Man. Like, what important things does the Music Man really need to say? And then can we switch up that context if you cast somebody, you know, who is like Norman Lewis, for example? If you cast him, what in context in the show changes? Because it does change. And that's the same thing as like, you know, all of my revivals. Like I have a Chinese waitress that's like on the cover of this thing. Like I have a Chinese waitress. Like how can we change something that is such a beautiful show about like women? And I actually really do like the motherhood aspect of it, and all of that stuff. And how does that change when you make it about Chinese women or Asian women? And like mine is about performative tourism, like, you know, and that's like something that is a different viewpoint, but is like, that's something I think people would be interested in, but it comes in a familiar package. And that's what I really like about revivals, is that introduce new ideas, but with old familiar things. But yeah.
Yeah, I was so glad that you brought that up.
I always derail. I was
gonna say I actually love it because, you know, unless if I'm looking for like a short clip answer when I'm doing like a interview in person and you're doing like a package or a story, if that's not happening, I want you to share as long of an answer as you feel necessary to help you truly, because, and I wrote down the Chinese revival of Waitress. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that's important to talk about, you know, how we all have our own stories, and therefore when we tell a different story that we know or we talk about it, that it really makes it unique, but also comfortable. And so there's like that combination of like, well, why do you love this thing or this other musical? And how can we make that more universal?
Yes.
My quick thoughts on the prom again, before we go, like so many bops, so many great dance scenes that like I came out, I was sitting right there and I was like, I'm definitely getting up to, like, I can't dance well, but I'm going to move because it's just like, it's too high energy. But I agree with like when they all just came through the lights, I was like, when does this happen? Like, it just so much representation in so many different forms that it felt like, oh, well, we could just do this. Like, you know, anytime that's, bless you.
Bless you.
Limbo, is that it's, you know, you take the good with the bad, and as long as something's not like hugely problematic in a way that you can't look past, or, you know, I'm certainly one of those people that can't separate the artist from the art, and I don't necessarily think you should, but some people can to certain degrees. Like, you know, everything is it's not like a blanket statement, but, you know, like seeing Brooks saying Barry's going to prom, like that was such an experience. Like that, you felt it, and the Cheetos on the bed, like all of that was just perfect. And so when you see someone else do it for a variety of reasons, you might think this is a little different.
This is genuine.
Right. Like, I think, and maybe you can talk more about this, but there are certain characters on Broadway or off Broadway or West End or whatever, that when you are having a character that is queer, that you would want it to be played by a queer character, because they bring that, you know, there's so many people on the internet be like, well, it's acting, anyone can play it. Like, yes, but maybe they haven't had that opportunity. And so here you're having a role that's like based off of their lived experience. They probably will give it more depth and realness than someone who's just like seeing it from the outside.
Yeah. Who played Sheldon again in the movie? His name is like, I think it's Kevin something.
Kevin Chamberlain.
Oh, thank you. Kevin Chamberlain. I was like looking, and I think the thing is like specifically with James Corden, it is very known that he's straight. So it's a little bit different when we're talking about celebrity casting and we're talking about like unknowns, because that is the thing, is like you never know who could be, you know, who could be any level of trans or any or not straight. But like, you know, that's why people got so mad at like Scarlett Johansson for like trying to play a trans character and an Asian character. Like, my God. But you know, because like, you know, Scarlett Johansson like is you know, doesn't make any, you know, is very straight. And so like the fact that like they couldn't have Kevin Chamberlain play Barry, because I remember talking about like the body types, because because Jose in the prom episode was like talking about like, well, if they had been like different body types, and I'm like, I see what you're saying, but like that point does not hold weight, because Kevin Chamberlain was right there. He's right there. There he is. He's in the movie. He could have been Barry.
He's playing a character that's pretty seen. Though I wish his character had more lines in it, like it does in the musical.
He does have more lines. Josh Lehman is gassed. Poor Josh. They should have. Yeah, they should have.
Love Josh.
Josh is cool. Yeah, and they should have. I mean, but that's like my main take is like, look at who you're criticizing when you say things like, you know, like, I wish that he was gay, because sometimes it could be an unknown and you won't know. But
that's fair.
Celebrity casting, fair game. They're a very public celebrity, and it's a very public celebrity casting, fair game. Like, James Corden didn't need to play that role. He didn't. And so, you know, and like, that's basically like my thoughts, I think, on that. Cause like, you wouldn't know. Like, another one is like literally, bring it back, like Angeliette Francois. We wouldn't have known. Tim says it in it. Okay, I'm showing my fandom. Tim says it in an interview. He says that he's straight, and that's how I know that he's straight. But that's because I like had to go through like mountains of interviews, and like, you know, I do that. Like, that's how I know. But like, you know, and I still would love somebody who is queer to play Francois. But if the actor, you know, on Broadway or whoever plays him later doesn't come out with it right away, I can't be like, hey, you're not queer, you can't play him, unless he's been like, hey, I am straight. And it's, you know, that's like that's a whole thing of mess of the slippery slope of assuming and doing stuff like that. But like, I will say that like Tim has said in an interview that he's straight, and also Francois is pansexual. My baby. Yeah. But
I just have to say, I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's true that we don't know everyone's journey and their truth, and you shouldn't have to say it. So I appreciate you clarifying, and also the celebrity nature of it all. And there are so many layers.
So much nuance. It's so annoying.
Oh, that nuance.
It's so annoying. But yeah, I mean, that's my general thoughts on the prom. But
Cool.
mess.
So we've been talking so much about fandom, which like is great because I love talking about it. But I do want to like get to chat a little bit more about like you and your set design work, and
we could talk about talk about me, talk about Juliet.
But yeah, just
if you have questions.
No, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to like share more about what you're doing. And, you know, you talked about how much you're doing now during the pandemic and how you've kind of adopted this new way of Zoom backgrounds, and that like how those two work in marriage, that you can both be doing something of a virtual sense while also still, you know, when Broadway does come back, or I shouldn't just say Broadway, but theater, because there's so much theater that's happening. What is that whole process like of thinking? Do you think when you're doing a virtual background about what this would look like if it were on a stage, and how I can adopt it, and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, for some of the shows, like I did She Kills Monsters, and that is a show that was originally for the stage, and then Q Nguyen, who wrote it, was like, saw the quarantine happening and was like, wrote a virtual version. Good for him. He tried his best. There were like some things that we couldn't avoid, but like to me, like what virtual theater is it's like there's such an accessibility problem when it comes to designing, because like you have like you're building a set and you're building things, and things cost money. And so what's great about digital design is you just need to pay for me, the designer, and I just make everything like from scratch. And so like the thing that the Gay Heist show, which I should probably say the name of it, it's called The Life and Crimes of the Rainbow Collective, is what that is about is that was written specifically for Zoom. That would actually not work well in a theater space at all. And, you know, and then we can start talking about like, you know, like if digital theater would ever come up as being an actual form of theater, because it's like a subsection, like medium of theater, which is like something that I was talking about like on Twitter the other day. Because like it's a new medium, and so you want to see where the resources go, and a lot of people are using it, you know, for good and to bring stories out that have not been there, like our offering and like a Christmas offering are using digital theater because they have the access to do that, and all they need is a cast. And so like is the digital design is like drawings and artwork, which is fine. But like it makes it so accessible to be able to, and like my job, I always say, is just to like enhance and make look professional, because I think that like people judge with their eyes, unfortunately, and people have these blocks in their mind that if it doesn't look pristine, that it's not worth paying attention to, which is something that I vehemently disagree with, but also understand to the point where I am like willing like to work for free if that means that I can enhance somebody's story so that people will listen to them, which sounds like a really terrible thing, and it is. But like that's like how I feel about my design work. And so like, yeah, and so I'm very into like things working in tandem. I wrote the script along with doing the tech. Then I kind of fell in love with the characters and just kept writing. But then, you know, and then went back to the tech. So that's something that's like really cool and important to me. But yeah, I think that it's a good way for people of color and queer people of color to like tell their stories in a medium that doesn't normally like that. I always say, I think I said at one point, I might make it my new pin tweet because I like saying it, but like there's something so radical about being in love with an industry that hates you. And so I think that like, that's like how I kind of feel. And like, you know, as we try and take over this space, like we can talk about the Rat musical, probably don't have enough time to talk about the Rat musical, but we can talk about like, you know, the reason that people are mad at that show is not because like people, like, I mean, there are people who are, and they shouldn't be, but there are like people who are mad that it's coming up in this non-traditional format. Like, those people are wrong. Theater can exist however it's accessible, but it's like, to me, it's like, who are we giving the resources to? Are like these, we're making a commercial, is it like a very commercial cast, like, and like, you need to understand like where those resources are going to. Sure, the Ratatouille musical hit it big on TikTok, no one's arguing with that, but our offering has been around since, September, October. My show is now, also available if people would like to give me money. But like, all of this is easy to look up, and people instead choose to go for, the easiest, like, what's going to make them the most money. I said the Avatar musical is also big on TikTok. Not as big as the Rat musical, I know, but it's also a musical that's on TikTok, and it deserves recognition, but it's also an all Asian like, it's an all Asian kind of production kind of thing. So like, what are we paying attention to, and what are our resources going to? Because as we start moving to a digital landscape that's dictated by what's popular on social media, like it's, even though it's more equitable over there, and there's certainly an easier way for things to spread and be about content creators of color, you're still going to get the white being the default. And so that's what you actively have to avoid. And so, and people are not mad at the Rat musical because it's non-traditional, because we're mad because every time somebody breathes about that musical, it gets another Playbill article. Whereas like, I watched our offering beg for a spot in Playbill and a spot in Theater Mania, and they have people on there. They had Celia in there, Renee Rapp, Andrew Barth Feldman, and they were begging to get, and even when they did, they put Andrew's name first. Like,
no, I
that's the
know.
whole thing. Like, and every time somebody breathes about the Brat musical, it gets a new article. So like, that's what people are saying when they're talking about
Right.
like equity in promotion, and
Right.
If we have to make all of it ourselves, which we normally have to do, like, that's what we'll do. And so I'm finding myself really drawn into that section right now, especially because I'm doing digital theater, and it's also like,
Right.
the eras of, like, we're gonna eventually go back to traditional theater. And not that I haven't missed traditional theater, but I haven't missed the inaccessibility of that.
Yeah.
So we're trying to go back with changes, and we're going to see, once the pendulum swings back, we're going to see what really changed from this moment, and what really, which is fun. Follow me on Twitter for that, that breakdown. But yeah, it's saying, yeah, I'm finding myself moving a lot towards that work as well as digital set design.
Yeah, and I do try to like watch what I'm saying, because I have some friends who are working on that, but I was very surprised when I saw the cast, because I thought that it was going to be the people who did the TikToks. And then when I started to see all these other names, I was like, wait, I thought the whole point was that it was just this like revolution of people coming together from all over and doing that. And, I'm happy for them, because like, they never expected it, and, they're hardworking theater people. But I agree that I saw our offering and I loved it. And I think what Sis and that whole group of humans are doing, like, that's a huge cast that they are just putting together by themselves, coming up with these like, that is so impressive. And like, I was like live tweeting it. And then when Sis designed the shirts and the whole, the Next Generation project, like trying to retweet and share all that. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda wears one, and they get a lot of
I'm glad Lin did that. Yeah.
That was
he knows,
awesome.
He knows he knew what he was doing. And
the power of Lin.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like the power of like having, I always say like the power of having visibility.
Yeah.
Like the fact that, he wore that shirt and then they sold out. Like, that's like, that is. And so like, people have it, they just like refuse to say it. Like, I remember, like, whenever well-meaning actors are like, I'm just a person, I'm just a dude. Anymore, you're not. Like, now you have visibility,
platform.
Understand. Yeah. And with the, I mean, like, and like the nobody's mad at the Rat musical for being a non-traditional TikTok musical made by people who wanted to make it, who are passionate about the Rat musical. No one's mad at that. We're mad at the double standards,
the resources,
how easily, and the resources, and how easily that musical was able to go from like 0 to 100, and then things like Our Offering just gets like constantly sidelined. Like we have eyes. So it's like it's just very easy to see. And that's like, because like I love Ratatouille. If you go back on my Twitter and you search keywords, which I learned that you can do.
Can you? This is revolutionary.
You can. Yeah. You'll see that like I actually really wanted to design Ratatouille the musical if that ever happened.
Wow.
One of my dream jobs, I always say, if I wasn't a set designer, I would have been an Imagineer.
Wow.
Because I would have loved to like design, because to me the set design for Ratatouille, if we're going to go into it, to me the set design of Ratatouille musical should never be traditional, should never be a linear theater experience, should not. That musical was made to be not traditional, especially like with the scale, obviously, like with the scale of like the rats and the scale of the human beings. And no offense to the TikTokers who made the designs, but they're really boring. And so like, to me, like the fact that it came through TikTok is so exciting, because to me, it's the very similar journey of Be More Chill.
Be More Chill. Yeah.
And so like, it's very impressive to me. And like Be More Chill to me was always like an Asian representation, like powerhouse to me. So that's why I really enjoyed Be More Chill. So like, not only did I get to see, characters like Christine and Michael, but then like also like bonus, I got to see Will Rowland in it. But like, and then Jason Tam, who we're not going to get into it, but like,
what?
10 out of 10. Love Jason Tam.
Phenomenal.
Like, the Asian representation, that picture of Troy Iwata as Jeremy, and them, like, I will cry every time, because like people like forget that like that musical is like a bastion of Asian representation. Like truly is so heavy with it, and I love that. I remember listening to a podcast and they were calling Christine like a Mary Sue character, and I was like, do you understand? I've never seen anyone who looks like me get to sing about how much they love musical theater. If she was white, she would be a Mary Sue, but because she's Asian, there's different context with that.
Right.
I don't see myself ever on stage. Like, she's not a Mary Sue. Like, she is so much more to her. And then so does Michael. And so like, I mean, there's
Michael Mel.
I have so many words about Be More Chill. I can't wait to yell about that musical at some point with that entire company. Because I was like there for like the rise in fandom. So
wow.
And I was like there real time, like as people went from Hamilton to Be More Chill, as people went from Dear Evan Hansen to Be More Chill. Like I remember like watching the fan artists that made that show happen. Like to me, the show was always driven by its community and these three particular artists who all don't draw Be More Chill anymore. But like you follow them and you see the people who they collect. One of them was a very popular Hamilton animatic maker.
Wow.
And so they moved to Be More Chill, and people followed them, as what happens in fandoms happens. And that's how Be More Chill like blew up, is that one person who, it's all visibility. That person who took their visibility that they made from Hamilton, that they got from Hamilton, that poor child like tried to like switch their username so many times. It didn't work. And then they brought all of the Hamilton fans over to Be More Chill, and I like watched that happen in real time. Like that's insane. And then all of that happened, and then Jennifer Tepper and her team of producers just had the foresight to say, look at what's happening, we need to do this now.
Right.
And that's, it was definitely a collaboration, but like there's definitely like it's funny reading articles about fandom in Be More Chill, and I'm like, you could not get it any worse. The one article that came kind of close was talking about animatics, but like I was like, you do not understand. Like, yeah, I like made a PowerPoint. I have a PowerPoint somewhere. But yeah, I mean, just watching things, patterns,
video
essays.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have so many words of love to Be More Chill and that whole squad, because Joe, it really we are so over, but if you're really okay with it, we're just gonna keep going.
I'm really fine.
Okay. It does start from the top, wherever that might be. And for, the music and lyricists to really accept and thrive, and him and Will and George always giving such a attention to the fans and making sure and like leading the way, that stage door was like bonkers. Let's just talk about that. But we get stage door Zachary Thompson Lane doing a wonderful job managing the stage door. It's funny because he wasn't technically like the stage door manager, like there's a adult professional who that, but with the Sharpies and making sure everyone, like, it was actually, from my experiences, and I was there like first preview, I covered opening night, I saw it like 2 other times throughout the run, and then I saw it closing night. So I was there at like pretty like significant moments in Be More Chill's Broadway run. Unfortunately, I didn't know about it until Broadway. So that is,
I saw it on off Broadway. I saw it at the Diamond or whatever.
So jealous.
I saw it one of the last nights, and they had like a whole stage door, and because it's not a traditional Broadway theater, it was just like the outside lobby. And so I remember like everybody coming around, and I was saying how much I love them, and then Will Rowland got to me, and I said nothing for 35 seconds. I'll never be able to talk to Will Rowland, but yeah, I mean, what a good group of people. Lauren Marcus is one of the kindest people I think I've ever met.
Yeah,
actor wise, like just wonderful. And like, I mean, I would love to like talk to Joe Iconis and see if he has any ideas digitally that he wants to do, but people are so turned off from this digital medium. Like, you say Zoom musical and you would thought like I had killed someone. Like,
no.
Just like, people need to open up. I always say like, open your imagination more.
Right.
Because there are people who are like doing the work and like, willing to, and so, and so I really would love if like, I would love to do something by Joe Iconis. I would love to do one of my shows for the thesis that I did was a Drew Gasparini. I designed, it's kind of a funny story.
So good.
And I designed a Timothy Wong show, and he's an Asian and an Asian American composer, and Monty Asari, and like, it's just like, if you give me like the visibility and the I want to make sure that your play is something new and something different. Also, I'm in love with musicals, as you know, so I have a little bias.
We all have it, don't we?
I have a little bias for musicals, but like, I would love to virtually design a Joe Iconis. Like, are you kidding? I would love to virtually design a Joe Iconis show. Yeah, and I've also there's a show called Interstate, and I've also gone into their Instagram DMs many times and have said, please, I will, like, I really just market myself for free because I can, because I'm at home, which is a privilege that I always that I acknowledge. But like, I always am like to people like, please, free, I can work for free.
Oh, but you also deserve to get paid for your professional work.
Absolutely. I'm one of the first people who's like, you should be paid, but I'm also one of the first people who will immediately fold for a project that I am absolutely in love with. Like, I was just thinking, I just saw a post about the Joe Iconis Christmas show, and I'm like, message me.
Oh my gosh. I'll
make it work. Let's make it work.
Have you seen it in person?
No.
Oh my gosh.
It would be a great opportunity. Finally.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, truly, it's incredible how I'm thinking of it like how you said the fans move from one thing to another, but like true with the people who write it or actors, like, I first heard of Joe through Be More Chill. I went to the Guggenheim event it was him, Joe Trace, Stephen Brackett, then Will Rowland, and George Salazar, and Jennifer Ashley Tepper. Maybe I'm missing Chase. The choreographer, Chase.
Sorry, Chase. I can't help you with
Also
that.
makes a cameo in Dash and Lily, which is a whole fun other thing that we can talk about. The amount of Be More Chill and other Broadway, off-Broadway humans in Dash and Lily make me so happy. And like I was just watching it and I was like, there's another one. That's the choreographer of Be More Chill.
Troy's in that. Troy Wada's in that, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And Larry Owens and Patrick. Anyway. So that event, I'm thinking of it because it's kind of cold in here because Lynn we've found through the months of doing these interviews that if I just leave the door open, it's easier on everyone. And it's a little cold and sometimes you'll get some outside noise, but him just needing to open the door, that was just not beneficial for anyone. So it's cold. And that day, I had just come back from Puerto Rico from seeing Lynn in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And it was so cold. It was like freezing. Like everyone was like, ha ha ha, be more warm, original. And I remember going and it was, I want to say the January 23rd or 24th, something like that. And it was windy and it was cold, but I was like, this seems like a really cool event. And I'm so glad I went, even though I like freezed my way to the Guggenheim because like the event itself was cool and you got to see, and Stephanie Hsu was there. And they all performed. And then like you could just say hi to them in the like lobby and they were just chatting with everyone. And I was chatting with Joe's family. And then when I saw them at first preview, he remembered who I was. Yeah. And that to me, I've told the story like too many times, but that to me was so like memorable. Like I had just moved back to the city from Texas. Like that was within the month I moved back. Here is this like brilliant writer who remembered who I was.
Yeah.
And I'm at their show on Broadway. It was just like, okay, whatever you do, I'm going to follow. So I went to Broadway Bounty Hunter and I went to Love and Hate Nation and the Christmas Extravaganza. And so all these things.
Yeah. Something like that happened to me while I was at the Jonathan Larson Project. Ashley, because I had dropped a gift. Well, not a gift. I dropped her my thesis book at the time, to her office. And so she like came down like right before the show started and like came over to me and was like, thank you so much for the book. And like, thank you. Like, it's good seeing you again. And like, she wrote me this wonderful like letter about like my project. And she was like, I truly believe you're going to get a Tony. And I truly believe like, I'm going to see you again very soon. And like, that's like, I think that's something that like, if I may hijack the conversation a little bit, like that's something that, like people of color need to hear. Yeah. Like people don't realize how important it is to hear that you are remembered and you are important in things. And I think that like that like little thing that Jennifer Tepper did, like seeing me at the Jonathan Larson Project and making sure that she said hello to me and who I was. Also, I'm friends with like, it's really funny because I was at Broadway Con. I talked to her mom for a very long time. Like, wonderful. That's so important. Like people saying they believe in me. And I haven't emailed Jennifer actually in a very long time because I'm like one of those people, I don't like sending emails and being like, how are you? I'm doing all of these things. Pay attention to me. Like, cause that's just how I am as a person. There's definitely reasons why you should do that, but I'm just like that kind of person. But like me, I was like thinking the other day, I'm like, maybe I should let her know what I'm doing. But, I did email her about like one thing and I was like, I hope you're well. Oh, it's cause I didn't see her on social media for a very long time. And I was like, are you okay? But
just checking in.
Yeah, but it was just that is so important to me that like people do that. And like be able to do that to other people hopefully someday in my career. It's like, I definitely share your sentiment. Like it's, and it's not like people are like, oh, you're just like fangirling, like you're creating like, a complex in your mind about people. It's like, no, good people will show themselves. Good people are good people. And, and I think that like with, Joe Iconis and everything, I remember tweeting George Salazar that one day I was going to be the Asian Zoe to his Asian Evan. And it was half of a joke, but he also found it and was like, oh, cool. So we'll do it. And like, I want to hold it one day. you know, like these things are motivational. They make you want to do things. They make you want to, you know, and so I just think that, I mean, that's just the power of being a really kind, I remember watching a lot of Will Rowland interviews because again, obsessed. And there was a Will Rowland interview, and his like number one advice to actors is in general, be a good person, be nice, because you will never know who you're talking to. And like that person could give you an opportunity later, or even like not even if somebody could give you an opportunity later, it's just good to be a good person. Just be a good person because people will like you more. And that's kind of like how I feel. That's very much how I feel about a lot of the work that I do. Also, I love Will Rowland. Just this show is made for me just shouting out people who I like. But like, yeah, like I've thought about like shows I want to do that I want to put Tim Hendren in. And that could be a real thing that I do one day. Like I always say that like the way that I am, my career is going is like, it's not a matter of if I'll meet someone, it's when. And like what I can do to, you know, boost that person and boost, you know, because, you know, all the things they've given me, like I want to give back. And so like Tim is one of those people, like I don't know what I'd do with Will, but like I'll give Will something. I like him. You know, I want to give back the inspiration they give me in a way. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah. Oh, you froze. No. You're good. I think you're good. No, you're good. I can hear you. See you.
Okay. Ooh, some internet fun. Chase Brock, by the way, is the wonderful choreographer who is also in Dash and Lily.
Oh, cool.
And I wanted to give the yes. You know, all of what you're saying is making me think of the Broadway Advocacy Coalition and so many important conversations that have been had this over the summer and throughout this quarantine, which is like, we are given this period of time where Broadway and off-Broadway and regional theaters, like everything is shut down. So if you ever wanted a time to make changes and to come back stronger with more representation, not just on the stage, but in the writer's room, director's room, stage hands, off, you know, the ensemble, of course, and not just the ensemble, in the leads, and as the costume designers, as the set designers, and they're just like so many aspects. And I keep thinking about some of the works. This is where I try to, you know, I'm positive only, so I'm trying not to like be negative about any shows, but I would hope that there are some serious conversations being had right now about what can we do next season, or I guess realistically in 2 seasons, because pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, also things are in a backlog.
Right.
Like shows that have already been, you know, like they're like, you know, I remember there are a lot of like, that's one of the first things I learned when I was trying to be a set designer, is that shows are on backlog. So like it is very possible that you won't see some changes for a while because people are in shows and the shows have been planned for a very long time. But like, that's not to say you also can't have some immediate things happen. Like, for example, the timeline on this show that I just wrote was a month. You know, the timeline on She Kills Monsters was 4 months. Like, you can still advocate for these shorter span things and still advocate for larger scales at the same time. But you also, you know, you do have to be aware that like there are going to be a lot of residual projects that are coming from the shutdown and also coming from like 4 or 5 years out. Because I remember talking to set designers who were like, I don't have like, they're like, some of them are doing okay because like they have projects that aren't happening for like years. So they're just working on those. But then again, there are some also that they lost. So it's a big, fun pile of uncertainty. But like, yeah, I mean, that's like just like how I try and think about it, because you will get bogged down. Like it will make you, you know, upset and sad. And you just have to know that there are like, you know, you have to know that there are people who are there who are going to put in the work to make things better. But then you also have to be the person who's going to go in and make things better. And I would say a disproportionate amount of that is put on people of color. But, you know, and so, you know, the best thing that you can do is watch and look and listen and learn and promote. If you have any platform, if you have over 100 followers, you know, I remember there's this YouTuber who like celebrated all of his milestones with sprinkles. He doesn't do it anymore because it's a lot, because he's at 10 million. It's the odd ones out. He does animations. But he like that's the same, like, understand that. Like, that's the power that people have is, you know, like even 100 followers, even like, you know, if one person watches this interview or listens to Token Theater Friends, like, and takes anything out of it, I've done my job. But the difference is I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep saying the same things. So, you know, it's like, it's a very like much like evolution of doing the work and continuing to do the work and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is also why I will shout about all our offering until I die.
Please. Yeah. Well, we're about to get into that in like 2 seconds. So hang on to that. Hang on to that thought and everything you're going to promote. But I do want to just say that I 100% agree. Like, if I'm lucky enough to have a platform where like 5 people watch this, 10 people, 1,000 people, like, you know, I've had some interviews I've done, like, have reached some impressive feats that I wouldn't have expected in like my first or second year of reporting. But that also means that you have to be able to say stuff. You have to be able to, you know, give voices to people who might not get the interview opportunity, and retweet all of the things that Sis is doing, because Sis is doing phenomenal work for so many different aspects and really opening up my eyes to certain things. And I'm also like the first to admit that there's just so much I don't know yet. And I'm trying to, in certain scenarios, just sit back, watch the video of whatever it is, and be like, oh, now I know that about this, or just expanding your knowledge and being okay with saying, like, not necessarily even saying it out loud, but thinking, hey, I don't know as much as I should about this, or about this aspect of theater or someone's life, or about, you know, anything. I think it's just like, this is a great time to, now is the time to seize the day.
Yeah.
This is like a great learning time. Oh, Newsies. Just watched it again. Talk about like female journalist representation. To me was everything. Everything.
Yeah. I mean, I can yell about that show forever, but yeah, it's just so important. I mean, I can't say anything that Sis hasn't already also yelled to the rooftops. I always joke that like, I always joke that like, if we're ever in a conversation together, we're just going to be yelling about the same thing. Like, it's so loud, just back and forth. Because I think that we probably have very similar thought processes about a lot of things, especially when it comes to representation in theater. Like, we're both against like when you say diversity, specify. Like, you really mean over half, or you really mean no tokens. Like, you know, like we're very similar when it like comes to that. And like, she's inspired a lot of things. The I can't even remember the name of my own show. The Life and Crimes of the Rainbow Collective was based off of our offering. It was based off of seeing a space where specifically Black and brown people could see themselves in these wonderful narratives about like culture and love and space and time, and like, you know, all of these really radical, like new contexts we haven't seen them in yet, and saying, you know, I think I could make like a gay hacker show and with people of color. That's where that comes from. Like, that's what art like that does. And that's why that needs to be amplified. Because like, imagine what our offering did for me. Imagine what that can do for, you know, with 100,000 more eyes on it, you know? That's like, you know, that's like to me, that's like the ratio of probability. Like, if you have, you know, a group of 10 and one passionate person is very different than a group of 110 passionate people. So that's like how I feel about like visibility and everything, because you will get somebody even in a small group who's passionate, but think of all of the work that they can do. Hello, doggo. But think of all the work that they can do with more, very much about visibility and very much about, the ratios and being passionate and all of that fun stuff. But,
all of that fun stuff. So now is the time of the conversation where we talk about at least one. You can feel free to share more of your favorite nonprofits or charities who are doing some great work. And this, I think, goes well into what we've been talking about.
Yeah. So like my nonprofit would be the Next Generation Project, which is the organization that I believe like sponsors and is like run by SIS for like our offering. And I always like say like donate to mutual bail funds as well in your specific state. And like, I should have, that's a smart idea, is to have like a list of charities at the top of your head that like, but yeah, I mean, those places for sure. Tune in if you care about artists. I always say like make a conscious effort, like, in spirit of of me and what I am saying, go to your timeline, follow like 10 new, BIPOC theater artists. And I'll name them right now. Go follow Jose Solis of Token Theater Friends. Go follow Danja R. Love, who writes plays about specifically Black gay men with like HIV and writing from a place of experience is really cool. Go follow Sis. Go follow Antonio, Gage, Sierra, and I think that there's one more person. I'm so sorry, but who wrote our offering. Go follow Jacob. Classic. Yeah, we're friends. We talked today, but we're friends. I don't know his last name. It's fine. But he is like making moves in the theater world. Go follow Ryan. Go follow different Ryan. Go follow Ryan Carter and Nicole Dennis. I wasn't ready, but they did Turn Up London in the West End. So if you're looking for what's going on in the West End and diversity and what like circles over there are starting to like come out, follow them. Go follow Miriam Teak Lee. Go follow Blair Mangat. Go follow, I can go follow Melanie LeBerry, who plays the nurse. We did not talk enough about her, but she's a wonderful person and I love her. All of these people, Alex Thomas Smith, who was both in our offering, Dear Evan Hansen, all of those things, non-binary, was in Rent, played Angel in the recent Hope Mill cast. Follow people, make an effort. That's my whole thing. Make an effort to follow people and change your own algorithm. Like people are always like these people post about toothpaste and brushing their teeth. You're only going to get that if you look for it. Look for the people who you want to follow. Look for the people whose voices you care about, and then you'll if you follow like me, you're going to get a lot of social justice, and you're going to get a lot of like theater stuff. But it's because that's what I choose to post about. So you're only what you curate your own feed to be. And also that also goes for Instagram. Like if you don't like following people who post about their bodies, don't follow people who post about their bodies. I learned very early on. Or mute them. Be friends with them. Mute them. So yeah, so like there are a lot of that's, if you get anything from that today besides that you should donate to those places, also just make an effort to find people. Make the effort, because like that like alone will diversify your feed, and you won't even realize how white the things you follow are until you intentionally decide to start following other people of color. I promise. Like I didn't even realize that until I started intentionally doing it. So yeah. And thank you for having me. We went 40 minutes over. You're the best.
It's so great. Honestly, you're so easy to chat with, and it's amazing.
That's so sweet. Oh my gosh, it's so nice.
I mean it. It's true. And where can everyone find you on social media?
Oh God, what am I? You can follow me. I'm literally looking at my Twitter right now. So you can follow me at Kelly Lin Hayes Designs. That is like my professional Instagram. You're never gonna get my fan art Twitter, or my fan art Instagram, not under my dead body. And then also, I am just Kelly Lin Hayes on Twitter, and you can follow me there. And that's it. I don't really have any recent projects. But if you want to look for me, like more for the work, which, missing out, I make some quality tweets. Follow me on Instagram, because that's where I like post all of my recent work. And also Kelly Ann Lin Hayes, I believe, is my website, but I still have to update. We won't talk about that. Follow the Instagram.
We all need to update our websites. It's like a lifelong journey.
I hate it. It costs so much money. We can go into how just evil of a system that is, of charging me money for Squarespace. But
so many.
That's the whole thing that happened in architecture school. They were like, you're not professional if you don't have your own URL. Like, if it said like Kelly Hayes whatever.wix.com, that would be less professional than it saying kellyhayes.com. I hate it. It's all classism and money and gross.
Totally.
But
I had WordPress for the longest time, and then was like, I guess I need to get a Wix so that I can have bwayshow.com.
Yeah. Oh, it's the worst. Professionalism is a joke.
I loved my WordPress. Can I just say that? I loved all of that. And like, I run my own website. So like sometimes when you're making updates, I'm like, I've put so much work into this, so it's probably not going to change. I'm just going to keep updating it. But there's certain aspects that I'm like, if I'm paying more for something, it should be easier to use.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that also does just a good glimpse into when you're seeing a theater artist in any capacity. We're not just talking about on stage or writers, but also the set designers or reporters or photographers, that there's like the equipment, there's the knowledge that, the studying that you had to go through. There's a website fee, there's this fee, there's that fee. And so supporting artists really, really, and also if you're supporting an artist in a time like now, or at any time, allows them to focus on the art rather than also having to have a second or third or fourth job, which is very common. So I mentioned earlier about, my Patreon, but the B-Way Show Patreons, the Showtreons, if you will, have really allowed me to be a theater reporter and photographer. And I don't take that lightly. And I appreciate y'all so very much.
Yeah. Thank you for sticking around for this hour and 40-minute interview.
Yes. And this, I'm looking at the time, but this remains on forever. So regardless of if you're like, I checked out 25 minutes ago, you can always tune back in. If you're like, I want the Anne Juliet portion, you can find that. Or I want to hear about Be More Chill, or, any of this.
Yeah, I want to see Kelly Professor dying her undying love for Tim Mahendran and also Will Rowland. Yes. Yeah. Correct.
Perfect. Those are both perfect things. I'm trying to think if there's any. B-Way Show, the podcast, my fancy microphone right here. We are now 12 episodes in, which is pretty exciting. So find that on your favorite podcast app.
Oh my God, a podcast.
I know, but it's really, some people don't know this, but I'm very open about it, that I turn these conversations into podcast episodes.
Yes.
So it's very exciting because
more podcasts.
Yeah, more podcasts.
More podcasts. I was saying beforehand that I listen to a lot of these interviews while I do work, because I really like long form stuff, so I don't have to like constantly click off videos. So like that's great. Like now I'm going to just do a podcast because that's even easier. So I'm going to go download that now. I'm going to subscribe. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Subscribe, rate, review, all those things. It's funny because they actually help. And I need to do this thing maybe in the new year, but I was going to do it at home, but I don't have any of my playbills here, where it was like a giveaway, like, hey, if you rate and review, I'm going to do a giveaway. So now I have to be a little more creative and think, what can I offer from this place where I don't, have all my stuff here, but I'm going to do that. So stay tuned in the new year for, some sort of I couldn't tell you, but maybe like I have like a Hamilton necklace I got from Etsy. Maybe I'll do that, or something like fandom related, that if you help me out, I'll do a giveaway, because we all could use a little help in all different ways. But yeah, I agree. Podcasting, even just like, the audio difference between if you're watching something like this from your laptop versus listening in your ears. Like the first few episodes, I didn't have the strongest editing software. Hopefully they're still very enjoyable, but especially as I got into Adobe Audition more and I got this fancy new mic, you will see a huge difference. So anyway, that's just a little snippet about me. So if you were like, yeah, this conversation, I like the way that she navigated it, you can listen more there. Are there any final thoughts of something that you came into today wanting to make sure to get out there? And this is a great time to talk about anything, self-promote, take it away.
I don't think I have anything else. I think I really said everything. I mean, just what I said before, if you are interested in BIPOC works and you're actually interested in doing the work, you'll find us, and you'll, if not, you'll find me and you'll DM me and you'll say, who are all the people you follow? And I will gladly give you a list. And also, you'll understand visibility and you'll understand why representation is so important. I really don't have anything to self-promote. I have the show. It was a reading. So stay tuned more for that. Follow the Twitter. I hope it can be a real production. It would be really cool. If you have a digital show or you want to talk about digital design, also hit me up. As you can see, I love talking. So, and Joe Iconis, if you're out there, I want to do your Christmas special. Joe Iconis. I just because I'm sad that I don't that they're not going to have an opportunity to do it this year. So if there was a way that I can, help out or anything, or give them advice on how maybe they could do it, it could always be like the great thing about our offering is that it's pre-recorded and then edited together. Whereas I focus more on live theater done specifically on Zoom. There's a lot of ways to do, digital theater. One of the things that I was in my little thumbnail was the Mad Ones lab that I did with Kerrigan and Loudermilk. And that was all digital theater. Find it. If you care about it, you'll find it. So go find it or message me. That's it.
It's perfect. And, my DMs are also open. So if you have more questions about this conversation or in general, I love chatting with people. And clearly we are both very talkative humans, which is great. Big fan. I mean, we've been chatting for an hour and 47, and that's phenomenal. I love everything about it. So yeah, I mean, it's important to expand your horizon. You never know what you like or don't like if you don't even get to try it. So please, go out there, expand. And this is such a great time with so many things being online that are either free or pay what you can, or, donate 5, 10, 15, 18, 20 bucks to the artist and get a link to their show. Those are the times that I feel very comfortable paying for something. Cause I'm this is going to the artist, and support all of your artists as much as you can. Much appreciated. And on that note, I thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today.
Thank you for having me. Oh, it's exciting. When I have more to do, we'll have another conversation when I have more things to promote, but I have nothing.
Perfect.
I'm here.
I can't wait. And I thank all of you. I thank Slimbo over here. Thank you for coming here today, bud. Appreciate you, my fabulous co-host. I'm obsessed with you. He's so cute. And he's earned a nice field trip right now. So we're gonna go do that and run around and bark. And he's gonna live his best life. So thank you. Thank y'all for watching. Anyone who's made it this whole hour, 48 and 33 seconds, appreciate y'all so much. Anyone who caught part of it or who's watching in the future, hello, future humans. You're great. So enjoy.
You're all my friends now. You've made it this long. You're all my friends now. And there's nothing.
Oh, yeah. This happened. We're friends. Perfect. Well, friends, yes, be careful. Wear your masks. I've got my Hadestown mask right here.
I have a boring medical mask and it's downstairs.
That's great. I've got a T Rico, Lin-Manuel's T Rico mask and Root. I can't wait to wear that. But yeah, please social distance, be careful, be smart, enjoy the new year safely. And when I say that, I mean like at home on the couch. That's fun. Big fan. Can't wait to do that.
Yeah. Or like on Twitter.
Yeah. Hey, we'll have a Twitter New Year's. That sounds perfect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. This is perfect. Going off the rails in just like the best way we could ever imagine. So take care of yourselves and we'll see you at the show. Bye.
Bye.